Welcome to the Profiled Corner. Today's video is the fourth part in the Introduction to Routers series. In the last video, we created various inlays using either inlay kits from Whiteside, or we use two edge bushings with a 1/4 inch difference in their diameter with an 1/8 inch bit to create an inlay, where the template for it was created using a router. In today's video, we'll be furthering the pocketing exploration to create various different things, not quite as complicated as this bowl that was created on the Panther router. This was created using a lathe jig, which is shown here, and a faceplate that was custom created. This is the start of another one of those bowls that I pulled off. We won't be able to create something round like this today, at least, but we'll be able to do some other things. What I'm looking at doing is I've got this leftover piece of black walnut from the sign project that we did a couple videos ago. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn this into a serving tray. I have marked out here various border regions that get rid of this punky wood section right here, and also get rid of the knot hole that's over here. And I've got a divider going up the middle right here, and then also add a diagonal here, and then over, and then of course the other side here will be positioned right there. I do not have a template for creating a platter that looks like this, but we can create one from using just plain wood. Now the question is, what kinds of router bits will we use to create this? Well, when I created the bowl here, I used a bit that looks like this. This is a bowl and tray bit from Whiteside. There's no pilot on it, and it went down into this area here, and it just scooped it out all the way around, and then it continues scooping in the middle. The actual motion was actually side to side, and then I would rotate it and then do it side to side, and then rotate it and do it side to side again. This would not quite work for us. Whiteside also produces a smaller bit that's a little bit taller. We'll actually be using something that looks like this, but it also has a bearing on it so that it'll follow the pattern that we create. So the first thing that we need to do then is to create a pattern or a template for this here. And what I think I'll do is I'll just use regular oak boards for the template. I'll cut down some boards so that they're a 1/2 inch tall, and then 3/4 inch wide for the border that goes around, and then a 1/2 inch for the center section. On the Panther router, I also created a tray for the various Panther router accessories. For this, I didn't actually have to create any kind of a template. I just used the stock templates that came with a Panther router to create this tray. Now, obviously, we can't do that using a handheld router quite the same way. However, if I create a template that looks like this, that has all the different little sections in it, we could actually duplicate this tray using a regular router. So this was all created using a straight spiral bit. This section up here for the ruler was obviously cut with a spiral bit that was quite a bit narrower than a 1/2 inch. Whereas the rest of these slots, I believe, were all cut using a 1/2 inch wide spiral bit. So we could do something like this if we had a bit of time to set up a template. But what we'll do instead is we'll create this tray And I've already started creating some of the parts of the template. So this, for instance, is the bottom of the template, so it'll go down here at the bottom. I'll attach it with double-sided tape, and once I get all of those parts attached, then I'll come into the center section here and start building that using 1/2-inch wide boards, and then I'll get them attached with double-sided tape. And then we'll come back and start the routering process. One of the problems that we're going to have is that there won't be a lot of support out in this area here for the router base. So we may have to come up with a solution for that. And we'll look at that later on in the video if necessary. I have the template ready now. I've added in support pieces in here so that the router base is well supported during this cut. I've set the router bit depth to 1/2 inch, so that should allow us to have a 1/4 inch bottom. I have cut off this edge right here at the bandsaw, but I need to use a flush trim bit to bring that back to where the template is at. I'll do that first, and then we'll get started with the router. In the router here, I have set up the bowl bit. It's in there, and it's set for a 1/2 inch depth of cut. I believe that is about the maximum that is offered with this bit. Now, one of the issues, as I mentioned in the last video, is that you do not want to use a collet extender. I'll put this up on the screen briefly for you so that you can read through this. I went through the details of this in the last video. Do not use a collet extender, if at all possible, when you're creating bowls or other things using a router. So I'll take this edge off first, and then we'll get started working on the inside here. One of the tips that I've seen on the internet is you use a Forstner bit on the inside here to remove the vast amount of the wood. I don't really like that idea because those Forstner bits, they're made of steel rather than having carbide tipped edges like a router bit. So the router bit would last quite a bit longer in theory. Carbide should last at least 10 to 20 times longer than a steel edge on a bit. And so I wouldn't really want to replace a large Forstner bit when I could just replace a cheap router bit. I'll be using, I'm not sure if I'll be using the bowl bit to do this entire thing, or if I'll switch over to another bit that's more economical to replace. I believe that the bowl bit that I'm using is right around $40 with a bearing on it. I may switch over to using a spiral bit to clean out the middle section here, but we'll see what we can do in a couple minutes here. All right, I'm going to repoint the camera so that it's pointing at this on the table, and then we'll get started. so what I did was I did a roughing pass, staying a little bit away from the template, going all the way around the pocket, and then after the roughing pass I went back in again and I kept the bearing up against the template. I'll do the same in the other three pockets. Okay, so here's where we stand so far. I've got the 4 pockets started. Now we've got an issue. We've got to be able to clear out the center section here. And when we do that, we'll end up losing our supports. But I don't think that that's going to be an issue in this case. So I'll just pull these out. And if it is an issue, then we'll look at doing it a different way. That may involve installing a large plate on the bottom of a router. But we don't need to do that yet. Okay, so I'm going to pop off the center supports. Make sure that I get the tape pulled out. And then we can work on clearing out those center sections. Okay. and because our support is gone, got bit right here. It went in deeper than it should have. So we'll continue. And we got to be a little bit careful with it, obviously. Okay. So that's the basics of creating a tray with a bowl and tray bit. Obviously, you saw that I had another dip right here in addition to the one that happened down here. And that's one of those places where having a larger base, as I mentioned, like this one here that I built. This is built from 12 by 24 inch plexiglass. It's almost 5/16 thick. It was flexing too much, so I added 1x2s all the way around it to stiffen it up. So this is the solution to the dipping problem that I was experiencing with the original approach once I removed the supports. And ideally, what I probably should have done is move the router up closer to these supports instead of just making one pass all the way around. And what that would have done was make it so I only had to make a pass down the center of the tray, each tray section, and that would have still left both sides of the router supported. But I did not do that. These bottoms here will require a little bit of cleanup to make them look nice. And you can do that potentially using a different router bit, such as one of the router bits for spoil boards. Possibly like this router bit. This is a 2-inch Whiteside spoil board bit. You could use that to go down into here, and that would get rid of all those irregular bumps. They also sell a 1-inch diameter one of these. It only has a 1/4-inch shank, but that would also work to get it down into the tighter areas if you can't quite reach down into there. So that's the basics. Obviously, once you've got this set up and routed out to your satisfaction, you can remove the template that was created, potentially, if the double-sided tape releases anyway, and you can take a look at your work. And I use some pretty good double-sided tape for this, so it's not releasing easily in some cases. So there, now you can see how it's starting to look. I was initially having problems with it not adhering as well as I would have liked, so I went through and I added additional double-sided tape, and now I'm kind of battling that a little bit as I try to remove the template. Yep, that one's on there for pretty good. Okay, so now I could just cut it off and I could round over the edges on it, and then I would have a nice looking tray. And then I'd have a couple little dips here that I could explain to people what happened. But those are little cavities that spark a little bit of conversation. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye. Turns out the double-sided tape is stronger than the wood itself. I couldn't remove the portion of the template and ended up splitting the bottom of the tray. Oh well, this is a fun little project.